In this trend, housing scheme will override farming in Nigeria unless, and this is my own suggestion, unless we go vertical on our housing scheme and leave this horizontal system of housing scheme, we may have a problem. So that is my suggestion, a vertical housing scheme. Then secondly, in the Southwest, everybody knows that we plant cocoa in those days. So our forests, we are in the forest region of Nigeria, which does not really encourage mechanized farming. So my second suggestion is both Ekiti, Osun, Oyo, Ondo, Ogun, Lagos, we need a massive land clearing to encourage mechanized farming in the Southwest and in Nigeria as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Honourable Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget in the States. You can see now that even the Honourable Commissioner is being agitated, and I want all of us to be, each and every one of us to be agitated. We want to go.
Some of them are the meeting is because
the intervention program doesn't include that time. To be a big game changer, we start including land clearing. Some of the, even the Uncle's Brothers program doesn't have land clearing.
Now 5 minutes to round up. We can do our group
I wanted to use the example of that planting. But this local planting will in our community. I will explain later. You should not just be I'm coming. But we can process and try to fight it. So how do we, because don't forget we started from migration. We are trying to see how we can retain, there are two options. First of all, urbanization will continue because the Southwest land are urbanized already. So we are pushing the urban agriculture, to fill the gap into. But at the same time, other things to retain our producers in the rural area. We're talking about empowering them or finding ways to give them more income from what they do. That's the problem we have not solved. Yeah, the idea is good that private organizations, provided the CCR, who can go. It should be workable, but I'm just thinking, how do we put it together? That's the system problem. Yeah. If we use even the Wara tree you're talking about, yes, I know the WAMCO is not only Nigerian. I know the Netherlands.
great impact for 3 years old. 3 years old. The 3 years is from 2 minutes ago. What are those things that we can do that will make at least a visible change from poor diet? How do we ensure that although this is safe? Let me leave it like that. Let me explain it again. Yes. And also that the waste.
How safe are they? So people need to be oriented.
But now we want to now
aggressive expression. They need to be reminded. Making sure that what we do is massive public campaign through training of farmers on
public awareness campaign and ensure everybody is aware. Safe. Whatever, or pay X amount. Is it that somebody has been, is somebody a victim? Yes. Don't we have any online? Thank you.
An output of such education, if there's an association comes to say, go to one. We don't know what organization is. Somehow political intentions. They say wrong information and IDR said the other time. Somebody else said. Now, we need value orientation for society. So everybody will know that your head, sir, is in my hand. Given my role, where God has placed me to do. Neighborhood association like it was explained. All these ideas can institute or locating funds in churches and mosques. We can invite people who are professionals to come and give us health talk. I have done that, calling OSIA, calling one directorate or the other in the Ministry of Health to educate my women group in my own mosque.
We have 25 minutes more. Please collate your resolutions.
We're talking of equity.
Of presentation and then from 3 o'clock.
Problem that I think
we have 25 minutes more.
That is people are representing prisoners people. We need to
25 minutes left for us to present.
Our prison system, in terms of rehabilitation, in terms of consider with knowledge, agriculture, let me say precisely, have farm settlement. We realize that some of these individuals having that knowledge, coming into the society, there is no provision for them to continue, you know, what they have acquired, and that, and as a result, they have a change of direction. Some of them ended up, they are riding up other, as you said. Maybe the farm, maybe the kind of farm is inclusive, maybe the farm is big, that kind of thing. What I'm talking about is an inclusive growth, inclusive development. Yeah. Because the essence of this about group is to look at different groups of people that are marginalized in the society. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, equitable livelihood. So that everybody can have access, you know, to resources and to this, be it woman, be it youth, be it ex-convict. So I think that, like the issue of the farm estate I was talking about can specifically make provisions, you know, for such people. They belong to another discriminating group of people. You know. I think we should do that in
our commodity exchange.
Training.
Yes.
Okay. Then, how can we ensure safe food production, processing, distribution, and consumption? Safety. How can we ensure the safe
opinion that an enclave where what they produce is only cassava, yam, there is a possibility for them to also use off-season production system to create those crops and some other livestock that can make what is available to be balanced. That will not make them at that particular enclave to believe that certain set of food variety belongs to the elites because it is not available in their domain. We can do that by ensuring that we organize our production system to ensure that we have not only for them but also rights. Also, we have opinion that there is intervention, there is need for intervention from government, appropriate government, to ensure that the support for glut uptake. Several productions at a place of flood, and it's not encouraging the producer. We need preservation facilities. We need all other logistics like food transportation among others that are appropriate for the relevant agency should ensure that we are able to provide this to prevent food wastage, loss, and insufficiency. One other thing that we believe we can do to guarantee food surplus is to ensure that massive deployment mechanism encourages massive enlightenment, education, training of those who get involved, particularly youth and women. The image should be made to contribute to food production. And also, yes.
Assuming that the cost of transportation will go down. That's number one.
Continuity in government will help us so much. I don't know if we can revitalize that organic fertilizer production in Oyo State. I think it will help us so much. And if we have in all other states in the southwest, if it's moribund, if we can tell our government to re-energize the plants so that it can work for the state, it will be safe for us, and then we can have more production in the state. I think it will help the southwest, because what we are considering now is the issue of southwest. How can we produce food that will be sustainable, that will have a food security and will be nutritious secure, and it will help us
affordable and accessible. Thank you. Now, we're to have a look at what our specific organizations will be able to bring to the table. A lot of that has come out in the discussion, in the specific MDAs that should lead some initiative. But are there any any other, FDA that we feel should play a strong role, or even non-state actors, maybe NGOs, CSOs, how can we bring them into this to contribute?
That is from the Ministry of Agri.
Many more.
Rehabilitation of farm settlement.
My name is
Farm settlement officer for accelerating nutrition resources of farm estates. That we have industrial and technological management and big time farmers, so that our farmers they can be put together. They will have industrial machines, they will have marketers coming to even buy their products from the farm. Farm settlements are now giving way to farm estate establishments to attract industrialists and technologically well-equipped industries.
Because we are not saying
establishment of farm estates in exchange to farm settlements. Because
that there may some people be disadvantaged, some people be disadvantaged. There's a need to remove such barriers. So confront the structural barriers between institution and policy. Address structural barriers in assessing public finances. Well, just like writing for you now. Assessing public finances, lack of market, etc. Improve access to credit, especially for the etc. This one, talk about something how to improve access to credit for women. Very access to credit. You maybe by they are not and you like that, you don't say that they're pushing. So let me situation and improvement of agricultural activities.
Do you know this
I we wait to closer lessons. Maybe
all the MPs know the aspects they are dealing with in this
for at least a 30 minutes daily.
Government will mandate mass media for educated 30 minutes.
Not jingle. At least, not only in health,
the safety of people engaged in farming. Now, if these things are done, then food production will go up by quantum. And with increased production, there is better availability and, to a large extent, also affordability. It's a win-win. The farmers gain, and so do the ordinary citizens and industry also has a good chance to do well. Now, as we said, value addition is the key. That's where the industry comes in.
Summarize, please.
Yes. Now, there are cross-cutting issues. No, sorry. Safe food, to start with. That comes from the establishment or re-establishment or re-energizing of state labs, all the food inspectorate. You know, they are in different ministries as well as in local governments. You have your health system that is involved, as well as, you know, direct local government involvement. The fabrication of equipment and implements, both for cultivation and for processing, is also a key that we need to look at, you know, to make sure. Now, also the extension system, making sure that good agri practice is what people, that's GAP, is what people are undertaking, is also a very strong requirement. There was something about the need to get our people to embrace our own production, you know, rather than favoring imports. But to some extent, that depends on quality and price. And if we've taken care of the availability and affordability, I think we will be able to compete better, you know, against the cheap food imports that have become the bane of agri development in Nigeria. Thank you.
Let us clap for Group 1. Let us clap very well, everybody. Thank you very much. What are the outcomes of the various discussions in the group? Professor Afolabi, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fanning and the curator for the Southwest. Sanusi is my name. Afolabi is just a friend. The action track 2 is titled Shift to Healthy and Sustainable Consumption Patterns. Shift to healthy and consumption pattern. By way of introduction, consumption pattern simply means a description, a profile of the foods we eat and the combinations and how they impact on our health and nutrition. Group 2, the first thing that happened was that a question was thrown to say we should explain what we are addressing here. But before I go to that, there are 3 issues that the action track 2 are looking at. Number 1, the issue of poor diets. Our diets put us at some risks of health implications. We do know that some diets are the reason why some of those who are hypertensive are hypertensive. And we also know that hypertension, even when controlled, has a way of affecting the quality of life. And of course, hypertension, many do not even know that they have it until suddenly they stroke. And if they die, they do not know how lucky they are. But if they don't die, and they are unable to do anything by themselves, even those who love them, will be thinking, they won't say it out. You know, Yoruba race is wiser than that. They will be thinking, so, but the way they were looking at you, you will know that they are willing that you should die. That there is nothing one can do. So, our diet put us at some risks. And many of us do not know these risks. Those who don't have money, the poor, they are at risks. Those who have money and they can eat whatever they like, they are at greater risk. Because even if you see healthy diet and poor diet, 9 out of 10 of us will go to that other one that is poor diet because of animora. When you eat it, it is good in the mouth. Okay. So, how do we shift from poor diets to diet that provides health and reduces the risk of diseases that make us age gracefully? That's number one. Number two, how do we reduce the environmental impact of our food production? How do we ensure that when we finish using the land, our generations to come will still have the land to use? Not that we will have finished it and what will remain may not. And thirdly, the waste. We waste a lot of food before the table, even after the table. How do we shift from large wastages? If we didn't waste this food, maybe the farmers will have more money, maybe we will have more food, maybe there will be no need of, we are now talking about zero hunger. Maybe there will be no food for people to eat. Those are the three focus, or should I say foci. Now, before we went to the germane questions, we had to educate ourselves about why our foods, or give examples of foods that we eat. The emphasis was that 7 out of 8 of us in our group, perhaps in other groups, eat at least once outside the home. And what do you know you are eating? Perhaps you are eating something that's palatable, but it's not good for your health. We don't know. And we went until the curator told us 35 more minutes, then we realized we have to answer the question. Now, coming to what we should present, to say there's a question that says, what actions in the next 3 years will have greatest impact on the discussion topic, on the shift? Because there need to be a shift. Well, in the wisdom of the group, and there are many wise men and women there, they said, education is the first one. Although there was a controversy about which kind of education. But we found out that every stage of the food system, the seed, the planting, the watering, the whatever, even until the time of diet, everyone concerned needs some specific targeted education to be able to realize that, oh, maybe you are far from the table, but whatever you do there, that chemical you are applying wrongly may be the one that will kill somebody there. So that every one of us will be careful. That's number one. Appropriate, aggressive, specific education at all levels of the food system. We are believing that it's because we don't know. That's why we are doing what we are doing. or what we have discussed secretly. Secondly, in the wisdom of the second group says, constant supply of electricity. When it was an agreed something, I laughed. You know why I was laughing? Because since I was young, it was even ECN, not NEPA, ECN. And before independence, you will hear Nigerians shout at intervals. Once they shout like that, you know. And it was not all houses that had electricity then. Because a house that has electricity is more expensive than the one that doesn't have electricity. Okay, so, but we said that constant electricity will give us a giant leap. As a matter of fact, not only limited to our shift to better diet, but we suspect that in all other tracks. Thirdly, we said regulatory bodies should be alive to their responsibilities. We are talking about the wholesomeness. If there is a word like healthiness of the diet, or goodness of the diet, so that it will support our health. There are some regulatory bodies at all.
Summarize your points.
Yes, sir. We also said we should include the mass media. I wonder where they are here today. The second aspect is what contributions will our organizations make? We have to be silent on that because the curator has said I should keep it secret. In summary, we will write all the identified problems and all these actions that we think will make all the difference in the next 3 years. Thank you very much.
I trust Prof. Please let us give him another round of applause. You know it's a medical practitioner. Professor Sanusi is always loaded, and you can see the group must have enjoyed him because as a father. So the panel discussion, I was indicted that we didn't include women, so they protested, and I said that it was even a woman. It's a woman that gave me the list of who to use, so it's not my fault. So we are including women now.
I want to stay in my group so that they can support me here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am standing on the existing protocol. My name is Professor Rachel Oteosejo, Department of Biological Sciences, University of Abuja. Thank you so much. Our action is Action Track 3. Boosting nature positive food system production. We were anchoring on 3 aspects. Number 1, protecting the natural ecosystem. Number 2, the sustainable management of existing food production. Then number 3, how to restore and rehabilitate our degraded ecosystem. On the question about what action in the next 3 years will have great impact on the discussion topic, we have 10 people that are physically present, and we have about 4 people that are virtually present for our group track 3. We discussed security as one of the most important things that this nation has to think about, so that everybody may be able to go to the farm. Without that, I know that many people will be running, and that's what is happening in the majority of our area. If our area is not secured enough, we may have problems. Then we talk about the mechanization farming too, and access to farm. Then ease of doing business, so that at least whatever people want to have interest in farming, if the environment is conducive for them, they'll be able to do it. Then we talk about reduction in post-harvest loss. Some of these are some of the impact are the greatest impact on our topic. We talk about government policies to encourage farmers, so that there will be availability of funds for farmers to be able to do things in their farm. Then we talk about value addition to farm produce. Then storage facilities that should be built by local government so that there will not be post-harvest losses. Then we talk about agriculture can be presented to youth in an attractive manner. When they find out that agriculture is presentable and maybe it's attractive, many of them will leave Okada and go back to the farm. Then what contribution will our organization make? Here we are able to deliberate on the different contributions that stakeholders can make. Number one, we talk about aggregation farming or community farming. Then we talk about synergy. I think they have to cooperate among themselves to be able to collaborate and network on whatever they can do to increase food production. We talk about commodity exchange too, and homestead agriculture and homestead aquaculture. People may be complaining there may be no land, but there are lands around in our houses. We can still do things within our area. Then we talk about how will it be possible to tell if these actions are being successful. One, we talk about measurement and evaluation. When you measure and evaluate, you're able to determine whether it is successful or not. Number two, we talk about aligning our indicator with the SDGs indicator. When we compare the two of them, we know that we are successful or we are failing. Number three, we talk about reduction of inflation of food prices. If the food prices come down, we know that we are successful. Then better nutrition in the school now that they are measuring that there is a stunted growth among the students in the school, in primary school or maybe even in adulthood. When we look at their structure and we look at the way they appear, we know that food is, and our action has been successful. Then what are the divergence view and how do we manage them? We talk about method of production and processing of food. There are divergence view about this. Some people want to add chemical to their processing. Some people want to add chemical before they plant, and all these things are having problems within stakeholders. Then we talked about the usage of agrochemicals. Now, and organic farming. People are suggesting organic farming. People are suggesting agrochemical farming. So it's better for us to, they are thinking about people talking about agrochemical and the implication of the agrochemical on the food, the toxicity of the food. It may be toxic, and we're talking about carcinogenic situation with food taken, especially when the product are stored with chemicals. Some of them, maybe they are storing the chemicals with grains in their chemicals, and they said maybe when there is increase in markets, they may not know the type of chemical they use in storing it. So what is what we talk about. Then we talk about the attitude and the behavioral attitude of farmers are different. Some people may have one knowledge, other people may have other knowledge, they may not want to share among them. Other aspect we talk about the how do we optimize environmental variables and climate change, because we are talking about the climate change. So we are suggesting greenhouse agriculture to be added to what we are doing. Then maintaining afforestation. And we can do afforestation and little farming in between them. Then we talk about the constraint of small-scale farmers. What are they facing? What is the problem of the small-scale farmers in food production? One, we talk about the access to capital. Access to capital and inability to manage the resources that some of them are given. Then lack of access to good market, land and infrastructure. And now another thing is security. Everybody is afraid. Then how do we now restore and rehabilitate our degraded ecosystem? We say we should pay more attention to our traditional composting manure. There are some people that are coming all the way from the north to come and buy the chicken manure just to do the manure for their farm. But some of us here are wasting it. So if you can still think about that, the biomass of chicken, they can be bought and used for maintaining our farm. We should reduce fertilizer, inorganic fertilizer, and increase the use of organic fertilizer. Somebody suggested nutrient film technique for vegetable planting. That you're not going to use soil now to plant the vegetable. You can plant it indoor. Then we talk about biotechnology, introducing biotechnology into our farming. Then we talk about the cross-cutting. The cross-cutting means different types of group coming together, like the ICT farming now. ICT can be included in farming. Then the experienced engineer can come and give their own aspect to the biotechnology, then partnership support. Thank you so much.
Please let us give her another round of applause. Women don't waste time. Before she knew quite sure that I was going to cut her short, but she.
Part 4, which has to do with promoting equitable livelihood. And the first thing we need in our group is to declare or to agree between ourselves the goal of the theme, which we consider to be to contribute to the elimination of poverty, food, and nutrition insecurity caused by inequality and power balances either at household, community, national, and global levels. Having agreed with that, we looked at the objectives therein, and we went to identify certain issues that can help us to address the objectives. First of all, we talked about the issue of access to credit and extension contacts, particularly within some groups that are considered marginalized. We also looked at the issue of the effectiveness of the Association of Food Marketers vis-a-vis what they have been able to contribute to the food system. We look at the issue of migration and urbanization and the consequent challenges of the food system. We also look at the issue of insurgency, elders and farmers crisis, and banditry, and the attendant implication on the food system. We look at the issue of information system and how it can impact on equitable livelihood. Also, we'll look at the issue of women having access to agricultural assets and the challenges thereupon. And we'll also look at the issue of public financing of the food system. So when we finish looking at all these, we agree that the following things will be done for the achievement or realization of the theme objectives. First of all, we'll talk about tackling poverty from a multidimensional perspective. We'll talk about tackling poverty from a multidimensional perspective, and with particular reference or concentration on the groups on that are considered marginalized in the process, such as women and youth and non-indigenous in some practices. Also, we recommend that there should be in place agency, there should be a structure that will specifically cater for certain groups of people such as small-scale farmers, women, youth, non-indigenous, which are present in diverse food systems that lack the space to express themselves or an enabling environment in which to exercise their power and rights. We also talk about power relations. Particularly, we discussed in our group the issue of in terms of power relations, matrilineal or patrilineal structure, where in some situations a wife, a woman cannot have land. But we agree that in the Southwest that might not be very, that doesn't occur often. But there are situations where the firstborn is unduly privileged above others. And so we look at some of those issues, we look at the power relations. We agree that structural barriers within institutions and policies should be pulled down, such as when, for example, government put in place credit scheme. And one example we looked at is when a woman wants to apply for a loan, and the system says that the husband should put his assent on the loan form. And the husband might not be willing, because that a little bit discriminatory, and that such institutions, such policies or discriminatory institutions should be put upon to include and to make everybody to be free to access whatever opportunities that is available. We also talk about developing partnership with big private players in agriculture and food system for capacity building and empowerment of small-scale, poor women or youth. We're talking about, maybe for example, the passenger farms or the Dangote farms or the big players, that they can come together, that can be partnership between such big farms and the government for training of our farmers or marketers within the big players in the food system, so that the activities can be more sustainable. We also talk about, I think the issue of insecurity comes across everybody, so we talk about insecurity and banditry. We talk about the need to put down barriers that hamper access to public financing for the private sector, particularly the small-scale food producers. We talk about the need to put in place a food information system that can make information to be available. We realize that many times there may be policies in place or even provisions for credits, for other resources to be made available within the food system. But the players, the farmers, the marketers, some of them are not aware of this existence of the facilities. So we talk about the need to put a food information system in place that will address different components of the food system and that will make such information available to all the categories of stakeholders. We talk about the need for policy actions to reduce women vulnerability and to protect the livelihoods of women, to bridge gender gap so that they can contribute more to the food system. We also talk about improvement of rural infrastructure to stem down rural-urban migration. And in that context, we also look at the issue of, in the Southwest, and the Southwest is already urbanized, and one of the ways to also boost the food system is to encourage urban agriculture, so that the little bits that people can put together from their systems within the urban system will contribute to equitable level and sustainable food system. We did say that there is a need to declare state of emergency in the food system value chain in the Southwest. State of emergency that will take care of everything. Is it access to credit, access to inputs, is it marketing? That the government of Southwest should come together and declare state of emergency. Somebody made an example of what happened about 2 or 3 few weeks ago, where the food from the north was stopped and the people were a little bit agitated for fear of what to eat. And there's no reason why the Southwest cannot produce what to eat and even what to send out. We have talked about the need to encourage urban agriculture, also to compensate for the urbanization in Southwest. There's a need, many of the times, people do say that it may be better for you to be a marketer within the food system than be a producer. Because the farmers are not well remunerated. They suffer a lot. and they bring the thing, and somebody buys it and put nylon on it, and gets 3 times what the farmer gets. So this can be very discouraging. So we suggest in our group that there will be a way that the produce of the farmer we can create an aggregation point in partnership with some private agencies that can buy the produce at good price, regulated good price. Something that will be similar to the moribund marketing board, but that can be improved on. A good example is the what is happening in the milk industry now, the WAPCO, that they tell the milk producers to come to a point and sell their milk. You know, and we think that if we put that one in proper perspective, it may help farmers of different produce to have better income or to make more profit, to encourage them to stay on the farm. Then, talking about migration, again, rural migration, the case of Osun Farm Estate was brought into view, that there's a need to improve on the concept of the farm settlement and making the farm estate and provide facilities, all manners of, as somebody said in the afternoon, about internet facilities. So we produce facilities for them to use. We also talk about the encourage value addition of the food system. We talk about the insurance scheme to enhance portability and reliability of the food system. I will talk about pulling down discriminating barriers, you know, that will affect the food system. What will our contribution, our organizations contribute? There's a need, the government will have to pull down barriers against finances and other resources, particularly the ones that affect women and other youth. And the academia can serve as think tank in formulating appropriate strategies and policies to achieve it. In terms of where we disagree or divergent opinion, it has to do with the issue of the using of urban agriculture, yes, in stemming down the migration. And we concluded that urban agriculture can also contribute into food system in Southwest. I think the curator is saying that I should stop. And I think I've represented the group, I think I've represented what we are discussing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please let us give him another round of applause. You can see how you can see the dimension that group was coming from. So you can see now the reason why we have to come together to solve the problem of food system in Southwest and in Nigeria in general. So now.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I want to appreciate those of us that are remain on the high table, and then our officials that are just coming in. Like the facilitator said, this is very important. This action track 5 is very important to sustainable food system production in our country. In this group, we had 23 participants. 15 of us are here physically, and then 8 joined virtually. And I have the mandate of the group to present on the paper. Yes, I have the mandate of the group to present. We sat and we discussed, recognizing the fact that it is very important that in any system that we're building, the vulnerables in the group should be taken care of. It is often said that the strength of a link is determined by the strength of the weak or the weakest in that link. In our food system, the vulnerables, we talk about the poorest of the poor. During the pandemic, there was a particular group that was targeted by the federal government. They call it the poorest of the poor. In the entirety of Lagos State, the target population was about 250,000 people. Those who couldn't help themselves, that in the event of adversities, those who couldn't help themselves, that the government would put all hands on deck to assist so that we can have everybody being dragged together in a food system that is sustainable. So when we put our hands together in our group, we came out with some issues that were put in bullets. The first question we're trying to ask ourselves is what actions in the next 3 years will have greatest impact on the discussion topic. And that has to do with building resilience to vulnerability, shocks, and stresses. What do we have on ground to say that whatever happens to our food system, that Nigeria will continue to produce food? That no matter what, no matter the adversities, that the level of production will still not be significantly different. That is what we are working towards. So we discussed and found out that there is a problem of storage facilities in the system. That we have post-harvest losses, and how do we address them in the short run? Because when we talk about the first 3 years, we are talking about the short run. What do we do to ensure that we have a resilient food system in 2030? So we said that government must put in place structures like cottage processing facilities and the proper storage systems that will reduce post-harvest losses in order to increase food reserve that is safe and nutritious. Secondly, we also said that we need to improve agricultural practices that will ensure less dependence on rain-fed agriculture. You will remember that during the panel discussion in the morning, a lot of people talked about the need for us to stay away from rain-fed agriculture. And what we are saying in our group is that we should take advantage of several inland waterways. Somebody mentioned Ikere Gorge Dam in Oyo State, which is lying wasted, that this particular dam has the capability of subsisting Oyo State in terms of irrigation practices. That government should ensure that all these things are put in practice to make sure that we are able to get to where we want to be within the next 6 years. We are not targeting 2030. We are saying that in Oyo State and others, in the southwestern states, that we should be able to ensure that by 2026, we should be able to be sustainable in terms of food production. We also discovered that we discussed in our group that the straight jacket agricultural extension system that we have been using in the past is now obsolete. And because of the need for us to protect the environment, there is need for us to incorporate or to strengthen the extension system with what we now call environmental extension, so that by the time we are passing the messages across to farmers, we will also be telling them the need for them to practice agriculture sustainably. That is, producing food on the land that will ensure that the generation that is yet unborn will also have access to unpolluted soil for them to also produce food. Now, we discovered also in our group that getting the foods to the market is very important, and that there should be development of a robust road system network that will encourage the farmers to bring in their food to the market system. We talked about efficient railway system and improved road network. Yeah, rural roads should be opened up to bring our food to the market. Then we also talk about development of home-based agriculture like aquaponics, another home-based gardening, animal domestication, grass water farming, rabbitry. All these ones are veritable means of coping with little land base in order for our country to reduce dependency on farm products from large-scale farmers. We know that a lot of people are very poor, that instead of focusing on large-scale agriculture, they should rely on the spaces that they have within their premises to also engage in food production. Then we talked about a well-structured credit facilities, which are farmer-friendly and accessible. And we say that all these things will help to cope with the stresses from poverty. You know, poverty, we regarded the poverty as a stressor in our group. And we know that once we have opportunity like that to produce food, we are going to be doing that without stress. Again, we look at collaborations with research institutes, various higher institutions of learning, and then we encourage them to invest more in demand-driven research activities that will be sponsored by donor agencies and our development partners, as well as circulating and utilizing research findings that can help in building resilience to vulnerability, shocks, and stresses. Then, we also came together to say that strengthening of the food production system in Nigeria by identifying the areas of strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities in order to avoid production of food commodities that are being produced at a better advantage in other areas. So that what we are saying here, we are talking about comparative advantage, so that we should go into production of things where we have better advantage.
Attention is needed.
Then we look at the opportunities we have in our correctional institutions. We know we have a lot of people in that system, and we should encourage them to engage in agriculture from production to through processing to consumption level. Now, there is another area that is very important. We say we are moving away from our traditional food system. There is need for us to develop traditional foods like white vegetable, white fruits, condiments, organics like mushrooms, and so on and so forth, so that we can have more food in the national system. What contribution will our organization make? Unlike Professor Sanusi, we have mandate of the curator to say that the academia and research institute will assist in conducting research-driven or demand-driven research activities that will promote more environment-friendly agriculture, increase yield, as well as food and nutrition security and equitable livelihood for all, while ensuring the sustainability and function of the ecosystem. The respective state governments have initiated different ideas as we have listened to this morning. So we are saying in our group that all the state governments should harmonize ideas within the region to bring all these things together so that we can have a sustainable food system by 2030. Now, those who are in charge of environmental governance and other relevant agencies will help in enacting the enabling law that will protect our forests, watersheds, and develop coherent and efficient policies that will promote a sustainable food system beyond 2030.
And organized for you to be able to pass across whatever you want to say within 5 minutes. I listened to most of the people that talked about the track actions, and it is now clear that the context of sustainable development is in three perspectives: economic, social, and environment. And I'm happy the basis of our discussion is within this context. But I will not talk so much like an academic. I will talk a little bit about the practice. Now, with what we have been able to gather, it is now clear that most people, especially in farm production, are very poor. So the point now is, how can we help them to ensure that we have a robust food system? And the point is, now we are being faced with so many shocks. COVID-19 is there, and the insecurity issues are there. So the question we should be asking ourselves is, how can we help people that are already poor, that are now getting poorer? So this is why I will be speaking in the context of social protection. What role can social protection play in helping us to have a robust food system? Most developing partners have invested in so many of these social protection programs. As of now, in most states, most commissioners and PS sitting here can bear me out. There is a project coming up that is called NKS, whereby they have result. It's a P4R thing. It's a result-based thing. It is more, by the time states are producing results, they would be, remunerated for producing results. So essentially, where am I going? We have within the social protection context of that project, because it's made up of three components, of four: coordination, the agri part, the small, medium enterprising part, and also the social protection. But how can we use social protection to help? Within the social protection, we have what we call social assistance and social insurance. Now, what can we do as policymakers? We should, as a matter of fact, make sure, because I know most of you are part of the steering committees, you should, as a matter of fact, ensure that we get results from these places. By the time we provide the assistance to the poor, they will be able to function properly in the food system. By the time you provide the insurance within the social protection, that is when they lose their farm product, we've had a series of problems with the issue of herdsmen and farmers. What can we do to help these people? If we cannot be so organized to provide, World Bank cannot provide everything for us, but within the context of these little resources we have, I would encourage that we should start thinking of what is it that we can provide for these farmers in terms of insurance. When they lose their produce, when people come and take away their farm produce, what is it that we can do? Because these are the kind of things that are leading to negative outcome within our food system. Now, the other issue, because I've been given 5 minutes, I don't know how many minutes I've used. The other issues that I think we should also take note of are the issue of our weak institutions, apart from the issue of security challenges. Yes, we come up with so many beautiful policies. We'll talk about, you see, I have always said this. You must first talk about food security to people before talking about food safety. I mean, any rational person, if his tummy is not properly filled, you don't talk about the quality of food he's eating. And when a sizable number of people in Nigeria are struggling with food security, then you know there is a challenge. Even farmers that are producing foods are facing these challenges. They are hungry, they are poor, and they are hungry. In fact, I was discussing with some colleagues just now. I said, believe me, the high level of unemployment for me is the main reason for this high level of insecurity. As far back as 1996, we had data that showed that in the northwest and northeastern part of Nigeria, they were struggling with poverty rate of nothing less than 75%. So there is no way you won't have people trying to move to where the issue of poverty is not as high. And you see, that's why I'm saying, as policymakers, sir, you need to use that context of social protection to make sure that we cater for people. It will resolve a lot of the problems that we've identified in the track actions and make sure that our institutions are strong enough. And these are institutions that most of you are in charge, so that at the end of the day, we'll be assured of a robust food system. I believe that by the time we are able to resolve these three issues, the issue of catering for the needy, making sure that our institution is right, and also attacking the issue of insecurity, I believe that we will be able to resolve our problem of the food system that is extremely weak. And it is because our food system is extremely weak, that's why we are having the high level of unemployment. Because take it or leave it, most jobs that are available now are in the farm. They are in the farm business. Apart from producing on the farm, the issue of value chain is there. Those are the things that can generate employment for us. I think I have done more than 5 minutes, and the curator is coming in my direction. I thank you very much for giving me.
For the contributory one is the one that involves me and you. So when we talk of social protection and you say you are not concerned, we are the same thing I said. Because we may not be poor, but we are all vulnerable. Anybody can be susceptible to emergencies. So at that point, you still desire the intervention of government and all other people that are interested in protecting people socially. So that is the dimension the Prof was going. So the issue of food is the issue of social protection too. Because when you look at the issue of what happened last year, within a week, people have started crying that they don't have food. Government has no choice than to open all the reserves and start distributing food across the country. So God will help us to achieve the objective of this dialogue. So at that point, I just want us to please let us relax, because we have been sitting down since morning. Let us move around for the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes and come back, or we will stay where we are for our facilitators to come up with the communique. The communique is almost being ready, it's almost ready. And it's not good for you to leave this all without listening to the outcome of the dialogue. Otherwise, you start, whatever you start, you have an end. Thank you very much for your attention. As well as Women Affairs. Others present were the representative of the Federal Ministry of Budget and National Planning, the Director General of the Development Agenda for Western Nigeria, farmers representative, actors across the food value chains, federal and state government officials, and representative of the pressmen. The objective of the summit were to guide government and other stakeholders to identify for implementation of reforms that will transform food system towards achieving the SDGs. 2, to identify game-changing ideas that will transform the food system of various populations in the country. And 3, to help develop the future direction for global food system and inspire necessary actions. And finally, to promote potentials and understanding the challenges that arise from food system by collaboration and consensus among all stakeholders. The dialogues were treated under 5 different but interrelated action tracks, listed as follows. Action track number 1, ensure access to safe and nutritious food for all. Action track number 2, shift to sustainable consumption patterns. Action track number 3, boost nature positive production. Action track number 4, advance equitable livelihood and Action track number 5, build resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stress. After the opening format, the summit entered into panel discussion session where issues related to the 5 action tracks were discussed to set machineries in motion and stimulate discussion in the 5 action tracks from the diverse perspective of different stakeholders across participating states and food system. The summit thereafter broke into 5 syndicate groups along the 5 action tracks, led by facilitators. During the group discussion, the following recommendations were reached. Action track 1 emphasized recommendation that we enable the Southwest region address the issue of poverty, such that there will be no poverty again in Nigeria and the region in the next 10 years. Then Action Track 2 also discussed the actions that is expected within the next 3 years that will have greatest impact on our discussion topic. One of it is appropriate aggressive specific education at all levels of food system, constant supply of electricity. Regulatory bodies should be alive to their responsibilities. Inclusiveness of mass media was also emphasized. Action number 3, action track 3. Look at what actions are expected in the next 3 years. And it emphasized mechanization, improved security, access to funding, ease of doing business, government policy, value addition to farm produce, starter facility built by local governments. Agriculture should be presented in a way that attracts the youth, and there is need for a change in the mentality of our youth. Then how will this be possible? It requires measurement and evaluation, alignment of our indicator with SDG indicators, and reduction of inflation of food price, and better nutrition and improved health status for children. Action track number 4. Look at what can be done to impact on discussion in the next 3 years. Emphasis was placed on tackling poverty from a multi-dimensional perspective and focus on groups including women, youth, indigenous people, the disabled, seasoned laborers, ex-convicts, whose livelihood are most limited by current food system practices and the discriminatory practices and norms that limit equitable livelihood. They also suggested or recommended improved access to credit, especially for the poor and women and youth, and also to develop partnership with big private players in agriculture for capacity building and empowerment of small-scale poor women and youth. They also recommended the need to remove or reduce barriers that hamper access to public financing of the private sector, comprising small-scale food producers and rural micro, small, and medium agri-food enterprises. Action track number 5. Emphasize specifically the need to establish effective monitoring and evaluation strategies that will be multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary, and with wide stakeholder participation. Also, to evaluate all the various interventions that have been done, especially those on smart agricultural practices, National Fadama and Critical Ecosystem Management Projects, National Erosion and Watershed Management Projects in the time past, and do a modeling of impact, scale up where necessary, and strategize on the way forward. At that point, this is the end of the recommendation. It is more exhaustive and more comprehensive, but I have to just scan through so that we will be able to conclude for the day. At this point, I thank all of you for your attention. Thank you very much.
We want to thank the permanent secretaries from Ekiti State, Osun State, and Oyo State. Your permanent secretary from Oyo State has been doing wonderfully well. She's a woman that coordinates well. We have met on various occasions in Lagos, in Abuja, it's all over everywhere. So she's very active. So we want to thank you for everything. Then Dr. Faniron from the team from Abuja, we want to thank you also for your painstakingly organizing this dialogue. This is second in the series of Southwest, and we want to appreciate you, and we hope that what we have done today will not be colored. What we have done today will not be tainted. We want to, as we have put it down, we want it to be delivered in Abuja raw like that, because this is what affects the Southwest. And putting the eggheads together here, including our professors who are very versatile in this area of food, anything about food system, anything about nutrition, anything about agriculture. We have put them together to bring out the needs of each state as it affects the Southwest. So we want it delivered as we have put it together. We don't want it tainted, we don't want it colored, so that when we see the outcome, we will all be proud that this is what we have contributed to, so that each state can also own the policies, the framework, the legal framework that will come out of this, so that we can be able to implement it in each of our various states. I want to thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Please let us give him another round of applause. That is our commissioners. So you can see the three of them sitting. They know that it is their property. And that is the message, that we should not tinker with whatever has been presented here today. And I assure you that the way it is collated is the way it's going to be reported. Nothing will be taken out, nothing will be added unnecessarily. So thank you very much, Honorable Commissioner. Honorable Commissioners, thank you very much. At that point, I think with the permission of the Honorable Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning in Oyo State, I want to give the microphone to the Director of Macroeconomic Analysis Department to give a vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
The entire member of the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning will be led by the Honorable Commissioner, Honorable Barrister Farito, and my permanent secretary, Ms. Hadibi. We want to especially thank everyone here present. We want to appreciate you, at least for the committed and the commitment and the efforts that were all put in place towards achieving the success of this exercise today. We want to thank all our political office holders that participated at this occasion. In fact, we really appreciated you, your added color to what you have done today. And I want to believe that the resolution that we have all agreed about today will go a long way to increase agriculture in Southern State. So we want to thank everybody. And most importantly, I also want to thank the federal government representative, all our facilitators, and the God will continue to be with you and protect you while going back to your various destinations. So we thank you, we thank everybody, those people in absentia, the DDDOM Commission, the CBN representative, the High of Agriculture in our land. God will grant it and grant our desires. And lastly, I want to thank our governors, the three governors, the Oyo State Governor, Osun State Governor, and the Ekiti State Governor, for making this program a reality. Without their commission, the commitment, I'm very sure will not